Hello and welcome to this edition of Beyond the Politics, a regular examination of the events happening right here in the Quinte region and working with the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me as always, my co-host, columnist for the Belleville Intelligencer, Colin Mackay.
Thanks, Paul.
And this show will be different. We'll introduce our special guest in just a moment. It is also going to be a virtual meeting in a sense, because this is going to be the first time we have someone who is zoomed in. As conditions grow, and during the whole run of the show, we have had some concerns about, of course, COVID-19. And we've done everything we can to provide a safe environment for the exchange of ideas and information, as we all should. But this time, for the first time, it reached a level where a guest asked that we could do it remotely. And so we are, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, the Quinte region has lost a very big part of our combined legacy over the past few years. Richard Cornier passed away not that long ago. He was a dedicated downtown business person, active founder in terms of shaping policy in the city, someone who ran for election multiple times, most recently during running for mayor in the election now 7 years ago, and was someone that many of us know during recent years as being an entrepreneurial business person. I mean, he ran a clothing store downtown for years, but then decided out of the blue to reinvigorate an area of the city, injecting new life into the Corby Distillery and bringing forth Signal Brewery, as well taking over the next door meeting hall and really taking an area of the city which was not only run down and largely ignored, but turning it into a destination, a place which was a tourism location, some place that was producing something unique and vibrant and something which reflected the spirit of entrepreneurship of not just the owner, but of the entire team, which of course encompassed his family as well. Our thoughts go out to Richard Cornier's family and everyone who knew him at this time of year. It is always tough to lose someone right before the holidays, but this is someone who has done so much for the city in so many ways and will be dearly missed. So for Richard Cornier's family, we say our condolences and you'll be in our thoughts as we celebrate with our own families this year, and we wish you well. Without further ado, we'll welcome in Representative for Ward 2 of the City of Belleville, Bill Sandison. So Bill, welcome to the show in virtual form.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Colin. I very much appreciate you accommodating me today.
Would you, as someone as well who is representative for Ward 2, I mean, Richard Cornier was such a big part of life downtown for so many years, part of our political scene, certainly part of our local charity establishments and fundraising drives. But then he sort of made a unique impact here in Ward 2, and you wouldn't find anyone pretty much in the entirety of Thurlow Ward who wouldn't know his name, the enterprise he's associated with, and what he really did, which was a rather unique kind of investment in this area.
Yeah, when I think of Richard, the first thing that comes to mind was he was a true gentleman. I mean, it's a heartbreaking loss for his family, and his contributions, as you touched upon, were significant in business, in the community, and in everyday life. And certainly his most recent adventure in Ward 2 was basically a screaming success. So I think Belleville is a richer and kinder city for having had Richard walk amongst us, and we're all deeply saddened by his passing.
And I mean, what more can be said about Richard? I'm sure the city is pausing to remember him. There are memorial services. The city remembers people like him, even who didn't necessarily reach the level of elected office, such as yourself. One thing I wanted to touch on and sort of move on from that is that Pat Culhane, one of the first things that happened when we came on with this show a year ago was Pat Culhane, your colleague and mine, passed away a short time after that. And she was honored not that long ago with the dog park also in Thurlow. So can we talk about that? How has that been going? And we haven't had a chance to talk to you specifically since that ceremony was held earlier this year.
Yeah, well, I would like to just maybe touch a little bit on Pat. I only came to know Pat through the 2018 election, and we became very close friends. And people say, well, you know, how could you become close friends in such a short order? But we had a sort of common interest in the community, and public health and the Quinte Humane Society were just a couple of those. And Pat's knowledge, her experience, her dedication our values were all something that were really a bit of a role model for me as one of the newcomers on council. And so to be able to recognize Pat with the dog park in Thurlow, and especially at that location, I think if Pat were looking down on us, she would be smiling. And, because basically that dog park, to coin a phrase, is where the heart is. And I'm sure she'd also be grinning from ear to ear with what's occurring out on Walbridge Loyalist Park.
So let's talk about Thurlow Transit. That was going to be our next subject anyway. That's a good intro point to it. What's the ridership been like as far as the Thurlow Transit expansion? And of course, that must have also probably been impacted by COVID. And
yes.
What's the reception been like from the community?
Oh gosh, okay, that's a good question, Paul.
You don't need exact numbers.
No,
When you look at the numbers, how do you feel?
So let me start first with the ridership.
Yes.
So we introduced the route in September, Route 9, and the ridership for October was, I believe, 1225. I'm sorry, September was 1225. Then in October it jumped up to 2106. Then in November, we've got two things happening. We've got the fourth wave upon us, and we've got winter setting in. So those numbers dropped off to 1543. So those are the pure numbers. But if you step back from transit just for a minute, since COVID, ridership in the city has been running at about 50%. And that was actually just starting to pick up in September. We got, I think it was something in the neighborhood of 60,000 riders in September. So we were starting to trend back up. It had been around 40 to 45,000, but I expect it to drop off. So ridership, I don't think is a key issue.
At council a number of times, as you said, since the housing summit and moving forward, but homelessness was in the spotlight not that long ago with a motion that was made about supporting people, or the concerns about some homeless people coming in from outside the community. How have you reacted to this discussion, and do you think it's in the right place?
Well, okay, so first, on homelessness, I'd like to, acknowledge and thank all the support groups that provide much needed services to those less fortunate than ourselves. We got Salvation Army, we got the John Howard Society, we got Bridge Street United Church, Grace Inn Shelter, the Pentecostals at Quinte, the list goes on, Gleaners. And, it's a sizable list, and even that list is growing. So, so on council, we all want to help in whatever way we can. And there was a point in time study that was done earlier this year by the folks at Bridge Street United Church. And that same study was being redone at the end of the year by Hastings County Community and Human Services. And they're going to be parlaying that information into an overall strategy for how we best deal with homelessness going forward. But on the point of study that was done earlier the year, I can't remember the numbers precisely, but I think they identified that we had about 130 people who were homeless in our community. And surprisingly, one of the statistics they produced was that a good portion of those, and I know it was over 50%, had been in Belleville area for over 6 years. So I believe the point that Councillor McCaw was trying to make was that if the Grace Inn Shelter, as an example, had 18 beds available on any given night, and of course it's partially funded by the city of Belleville, excuse me, by also Hastings County, that we should provide a priority for those homeless people that have been identified through this point of use study. Unfortunately, that council meeting wasn't one of our finest. There were number of emotional outbursts. And I think Councillor McCaw's position somehow got a little twisted. And of course, it got reported out in the media that way. And I think on council, I think we're all trying and we all want to do our part for homeless and homelessness. And,
Bill,
it's an ongoing struggle.
Bill, does it really matter where?
Colin?
All right, so we'll do it fairly quickly, Bill. So you have a favorite holiday tradition?
Sure, turkey dinner.
Do you have a favorite holiday beverage?
Gosh, hot chocolate.
Do you have a favorite gift to get or receive?
Tim Hortons card.
And if you had a holiday wish for everyone, what would that be?
Boy, it would be to have a safe and healthy and happy Christmas. And I would wish them all the best in the new year.
Now, and speaking of which, what are your holiday plans? You already said you canceled the vacation for now, for December, because of course numbers were going up and you felt you should be closer to home. That's a decision I'm sure a lot of people are making right now. So
yeah, we made.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we made sort of a last-minute decision. We were scheduled to go to Cuba for 10 days. It was at the time very low in terms of case count and was approved by the Canadian government as a safe place to go. So what we ended up doing, because of what the changes that happened, is we've rescheduled that to March. So our Christmas vacation, if you will, is actually going to occur in March if the situation improves. In terms of what we've got currently planned, with a limit of 10, we've currently got 10 coming to the house for Christmas dinner. And hopefully that stays in place because that'll allow our children, grandchildren, and one other guest to come.
Will you be taking any, you said, how closely will you be looking at the regulations as it gets closer to the day? I mean, it's only a few days away, but people will be having a lot of parties for the next week.
Yeah, well, for ourselves, we're pretty fortunate. We've got family here in Belleville, so it's just a phone call, and the other family is basically an hour and 15 minutes up the highway. So again, it's just a phone call. Mm-hmm. We're very fortunate in that regard.
Lastly, we have about 30 seconds, but what are your plans for the election coming up next fall?
Are you looking to be a campaign manager, Paul?
My plans are classified. I'm asking you, sir.
So I haven't given it a lot of thought, to be honest. We're 3 years in. There's still a year to go, and I'll make a decision about whether I run again, probably in the May-June timeframe.
And apparently I have an offer to be a campaign manager, so we may talk again. This has been Beyond the Politics with Ward 2 Councillor Bill Sandison.